What's going on YouTube? Effect Records here. Today I'm bringing an updated video of my '03 Mitsubishi Lancer EVO conversion build. Alright guys, so I've done a little bit to it. I've also tried to fix some errors that I made from my measurements and stuff once I got it hooked on the car. So let me go ahead and get into what I was working on and what I was doing and what I was trying to figure out and stuff like that. So I made this look a little bit better. So I'm pretty sure in the last video it was looking pretty sloppy. It's still not finished obviously, so I still got a lot of work to do on it, but this is kind of what I got so far as it sits right now. I believe in the last video as well, the main thing I was working on here lately was welding this piece to the actual car, and this heat dent and stuff like this was already here before I did this. That was when I did the first one all the way across, the first wide body that I actually put on this car. Created that heat dent because I was still learning when I was in auto body to try to go slower. So I've been going really slow. So I just see I got like a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there. Just trying to go really slow. But there was like a ½ inch gap all the way down. So I'm pretty sure it was in the last video. I can't remember entirely. So don't quote me on that, but there was like a 1.5 inch gap going all the way across it. And what I had to do to try to fill in that gap is I took a rectangle piece of metal, like a strip of metal, and laid it in the inside and used that as like a backing plate so for my welds to weld onto. So that's kind of how I had to do that, the way I did it. So if you look in the inside, there's that strip of metal, which it's still not finished in the inside. I'm going to grind a lot of that away and make some more changes. This isn't done by all means, but I wanted to make a video this weekend, so here it is. But there's just a strip of metal that goes all the way down to fill in the gap so I can have something to weld onto instead of trying to stitch weld all the way across it, because that was probably going to make a lot more heat dents and stuff. So I opted to do it that way instead. And the inside I'm going to grind that, you know, and make it look legit once the time comes. Grind that smooth, hopefully, so like it never existed. Basically just using that to help me out with this project now. So that's one thing that I've been working on here lately, because it's a very slow process to not create any heat dents with this piece nor this piece, because I basically weld here, weld, let it cool off, and then slide a little bit over it, weld, while I do the same thing here, weld, and then slide a little bit over once it cool off, weld, all the way down. Fuck, takes forever. So that's kind of what that looks like now. I plan on getting the what do they call it? The thing to remove heat dents, that little zappy gun with nails from Harbor Freight. I can't remember what they call it. You basically, it's like a little nail, and you take it and you weld it on there, and you try to pry it up. I bought a stud leveler actually to do that part. I just need the actual nail gun to weld on the nails itself, and then you just take like snips, wiggle off the nail, and that's how you remove heat dents. So I plan on doing that before I do body filler and stuff. So yeah, but I can't remember. I'm trying to remember what was all shown in the last video, but I mean, like, here's this look from this. I still got to shave off this with a cutoff wheel. I started to weld here under here because I did a little plate just like I did on the other side, but that's not finished either. That's kind of what that looks like. And I don't think I had this on as well on the last video, which I put that on basically. And how I do it is I'm like, I had somebody in here, they were buying some tools from me, and they asked if I used cardboard cutouts. And no, I basically weld on the piece of metal, like I'll tack weld it, you know, put a tack, and then I'll basically shape it once it's on the vehicle. Just because I'm not very good with measurements, and I find that to be the easiest, just to so it was a wider piece of metal, and then I would cut off the bottom part, but I'd make it wide enough. And then it was like sticking out like out here when I first welded it on. And then I'd shorten it up later to kind of make the shape. And that's how I've been doing this project. Now, one thing I did run into was I had this all stitch welded on and looking good. But then when I was doing the other side, making measurements, you know, just check and make sure it's good before I continue on, I noticed that this is actually like an inch longer than it needed to be. So I had to cut off an inch here. And since I had to cut off or like a half an inch or whatever, since I had to cut that off and shorten it up, I also looked on the other side to see kind of the shape and how it was, because before when I just cut that inch off trying to go out, it was bowing outwards, and on that side it doesn't bow outwards, it just goes like straight back and then straight, you know, inwards. So I had to try to mimic that shape on this side, so I had to cut this whole thing all the way down. So I have to re-stitch weld that. I might need some backing material for like in here if I can't get to it, because there is a little gap, but hopefully I could just, you know, stitch weld that, because that's not as wide as what the rear was. That's kind of one problem that I ran into, just my measurements were off or whatever. I don't think I really measured it either. I think I traced it for some reason. For some reason, somewhere, it was not correct. So, but no worries, I can fix that. It's fine. And I did fix it. I just haven't finished fixing it by finish welding it up yet. Another thing I got to do, or another thing that I was working on, was the leg. So the end piece right there, where that gap comes down, was another thing that I was kind of working on. Now I got to redo it. It's not as good as I wanted it to be. And while it's apart, you know, I want it to be as good as it can be. So I'm going to make some changes on that. But that's kind of what it looks like right now. There's not a lot of changes. Like, it's almost good, but it's not, you know, good. Like, right down here, like the part that's kind of finicky is this is more straight instead of curving in, you know, right off the bat on the other side. So since I'm trying to mimic that side, I got to make sure that it looks good. So I got to go back and forth. And I haven't got to it yet, because I basically did that, tack welded it on, and then started working back here, because this is one of my big projects that I had to do to finish it off, because that was a lot of work just doing that. It took me quite a few days to get that kind of, it's not what finished, like I said, but you know, at least kind of conform with the car and stuff. So yeah, and then I got the gas cap area where that'll be right there. I got to figure out how to weld kind of in there, make sure that's welded up. So that's another thing I got to, you know, try to figure out and work on. Other than that, most of it's pretty proportionate on the other side. Like, I kept going back and forth on that side to this side and just looking at it all the way straight down here, and then from the front or from the side. And to me, it looks pretty good. I mean, I'm happy with it. I like it. So I think it's going good, personally. So hopefully in the next video, I'll have that wheel well cut out. I'll have this stitch welded back on. Hopefully I'll have this at least somewhat finished with it, with grinding off, which I mean by that is also shaping this around the taillight on both sides. And yeah, I haven't touched the other side since I've been working on this side. I'm just trying to get them to match. And then, yeah, so basically once I get both rear quarters done, then I'm going to either start on the roof scoop, which is, I kind of got a design out, I think, up here that I kind of drew. Right here is kind of a design I was working on. For the roof scoop. Now I was going to use, oh, it's dropping. I was going to use the circle. So that's the line I was going to cut off of with the circle, was that line. But the reason I made it a lot wider is because I still got to cut out like a half oval shape or something to form with the car, which I kind of have a plan for that. So it'll be a little bit shorter than what it looks like there because of that. So I'm not saying that's the design I'm going to go with. I'm just, you know, trying to figure it out as I go and work. But anyway, after I do the roof scoop, after I finish both rear quarters, which I mean by finish, I mean basically finished, so like closing the wheel well and all that stuff, then I'll be working on the rear diff and installing that under it, so that way I can have, you know, this pile basically gone except for the front subframe. But basically after the rear diff is like not finished, because I'm gonna take it back off, but where I can just bolt up the rear diff, that's when I'm going to take off the rear diff again, and I'll have the roof scoop done, have this done, and I'll probably go ahead and prime it all the way, because the main thing I'm waiting for the engine to get that installed again is I want it to be primered and painted, so that way I don't gotta take it off again. So basically just primer and paint the engine bay, so that way I don't have to remove this engine again once I put it in. So that's kind of the plan that I'm just waiting for. I'm just waiting to finish the body work on the rear, just getting the taillights situated, the roof scoop, and all that stuff. So anyway, now I'm just rambling, so I'll let you go here. But stay tuned for another video. Hopefully I'll have one next Friday. I've been trying to work on it. I've been working on motorcycles lately. I've been trying to fix this horn. There's a wire there, trying to diagnose the horn issue. And then I also bought a new motorcycle over the weekend. I bought a 1991 Honda CBR 600, which I'll probably show that in the next video. It's outside right now because I was just out on a ride with it. But that's what I was doing this weekend. Actually, I was working on those bikes, getting the turn signals and stuff working and all that stuff. So anyway, yeah, I'll catch you guys later in the next one. All right, peace.